When the series is over, even if the Nuggets win, when we come out of the series, like, is there a chance, basically, that's the point of the question, that we will exit the series saying the best player in this series was Anthony Edwards? Not that he's better than Jokic, but that the best player in the series was actually Anthony Edwards. And I think that if you asked a lot of people right now, to Ken's point on, like, the stock price, maybe people would say, like, it's Anthony Edwards' time now. And this is the sort of thing that, like, LeBron would use, chip on his shoulder, Kevin Durant, chip on his shoulder, Troel Embiid, and he calls himself that, big-time chip on his shoulder, would be tweeting about it on social media. I'm not even saying this to insult these guys. I would feel that way if I were them. Like, I wonder if, like, Jokic, like, hears any of this or cares about any of this, and you just get, like, the Nikola Jokic, hey, everybody, I know you're saying that this guy's Jordan. I'm actually the guy here. And he just absolutely smashes them. I don't even know if he needs that to do that. I just think that's such like a fascinating subplot of this series. That Jokic coming into the series, Ken, is not the forgotten man, but I think a lot of the hype's going to be on Anthony Edwards, at least heading into game one on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. Fascinated to see what Edwards looks like in the series, right? I couldn't have played a better first round series. Passed every test. Bradley Beal's not like a slouch defensively, like it wasn't nobody, and still to put up the numbers
Just
that he put
seems
up,
that way.
and yeah, $50 million slouch, and to trash talk Durant, hit all the big shots, and Edwards has this thing where, and I've heard a bunch of people talk about this, and I just agree, where like when you're like about to see a score, like a couple go in and you're like, wow, the next 10 minutes are about to be like really awesome. Like they're about to be really cool. He's going to make all these shots. It's what's gotten him to this point. I hesitate to always, because I think I, I want to agree with Matt and be like, oh, like 7 games, like gonna go the distance. Series lengths are just always really tough, Like if you had told someone, hey, like in hockey, the first series that's going to end is Rangers Capitals, we would all been like, yeah, dummy. It's the best team. It's the team that literally won the most against the worst playoff team of the last like 25 years. Be like, and in the NBA, the first playoff series that will end will be Minnesota Phoenix, not Boston Miami, and not any of these other things. Lengths are tough sometimes. They're just really tough. And the ebbs and flows of how this goes, and injuries, and a play here and a play there, a team kind of like letting go of the ropes sometimes at the end of a series if they're down a couple of games, like stuff just happens more often. So I used to be really into like, over 5.5 games or to go 7 or something like that. I think Minnesota Phoenix, again, just a nice reminder of like, I'm good on lengths of series. Like I don't know. I don't know how many games. I have no idea. But we do this a lot. To go back to winner of the series, just you brought up some names. It's funny because it's like, oh, like Durant and Embiid. It's like, well, like Jokic is kind of like better than both those guys already. Like he's at least better than Embiid already. He's probably not better than Durant yet. They win the title this year. That's the conversation.
Like
Then
historically,
LeBron, we'll
we're
see.
talking about, obviously, right? Not like
Yeah.
today, like over the balance of their careers.
Oh, I mean, he crushes all three of them right now. Like in terms of the talent, Embiid's probably the closest, which is the funny thing. Maybe LeBron. But just in terms of like historically great players.
I agree with that.
But historically great players, like how many times does this sounds first takey, but like whatever, like I don't do the X's and O's stuff, whatever, still goes okay. All right, like how many times Mahomes play in a playoff game where you try to invent reasons why the opposite side's really good? How many times like Jordan play in a final, be like, like Karl Malone and Stockton, like this time they got him. It's how many times do we do this stuff? Well, we do this all the time.
Clyde Drexler lost to the Pistons, and now he's ready.
Yeah, I just how many times do we do this with
But
this
that's
stuff?
like betting content in 1992, right? It's
right.
like, oh my God, Blazers like thwarted by Detroit, and now they're ready to win. Bulls resting on their laurels, beat Magic last year, or then the next year. Well, now Charles is in Phoenix, and his supporting cast is crazy. Give me the Suns.
Just like
give me the Dolphins. Give me the Dolphins and
Lakers
Arrowhead
Heat
on
finals.
Peacock.
Yeah, right.
Sub-zero temperature.
Lakers Heat finals, Nuggets Heat finals. You try to talk yourself into the crazy thing happening. Okay. This one isn't that crazy. Like there are crazier things that we've predicted before that people have tried to. Just like when all the chips are in, who you going with? Like, come on, guys. Like he's on a trajectory to be like maybe like a top 5 player ever, depending on how long his career is. At least like a top 10 to 20 player. Like that's where he lives. That's where he lives, and he's got a home game against a guy who's like 22. Great, like Edwards is really special. We're gonna pick the other guy. Like that's what we're gonna do? I don't know, man. It just feels like another one of these like let's invent, and it's not inventing because that means it's like made up, but let's like really hyper focus on the 50 ways that it won't be the best guy ever. Let's focus on all those. And it's like, well, no. And yeah, like all it's not that they can't. This isn't like some guarantee. I just again like who would I bet in the series? I don't know. Who would you bet when Mahomes plays in the Super Bowl? And who would you bet when the best player of all time? Who would you bet when like Tiger plays golf? Who would you? I mean, just come on. Like what are you going to bet in these situations? Be like, well, price matters. Be like, yes. But to me, that's just like, do I want to bet Denver at this price or another price or later or whatever? But the answer is still the same. So, like, great. Like, let me know when the price changes then. Yeah.
50 Shades of Grey or 50 ways the Nuggets will not win? And which is more sado and
between those 50 Shades either. Yeah. So.
And which is more sadomasochistic of the two?
Yeah.
So, a couple things. You've been right a lot recently, so I think like you've earned that right. And I don't think anyone can.
So my head is completely full of hot air right now at this exact moment.
Okay.
I am due to get just worked by something, right?
Well, listen. Like, let's say that's true, and like I don't think it is because I know you and I know that's not the case. But let's say that people think that, right? Also, like if you listen to and watch the show and listen to Ken's advice, like Ken's head may be full of hot air and your wallet is full of cash. So like who cares? Like it doesn't matter.
And there are contingencies here. Like I don't think it has to be Denver, but I'll put it this way. If it's so Denver over somebody, Celtics over not Denver. If it's anything other than that, I will be 100% completely astonished, apologetic. I don't know anything. If it's not one of those two things.
You have to apologize.
No, but you know what I mean? Like I will be in total shock if it is not one of those two things. Celtics over Denver is really just an opinion thing. Like I don't think that's going to happen. So I guess that one's I'd have to like eat a bunch of crow on that because Tatum would beat Jokic, and I have to say it in that way because it sounds ridiculous to say out loud. But like, okay, maybe Murray gets hurt going into that series or something, whatever. But like Denver over somebody, most likely finals by far. That doesn't really give you a lot of clarity on the other side, but you get the idea. Celtics over a team that's not ready. Thunder too young. Edwards too young. That makes perfect sense as the second option. I don't know what the third option would even. Everything else would make absolutely no sense to me. Thunder, Pelicans, whatever. Thanks, Galveston, Texas, whatever. And the Thunder move on to the second round. And I think, a lot of people are going to look at this and be like, the Thunder get a week off. Like the team they play in the second round is going to be through a war here between the Mavs and Clippers. Who do you think makes it out of Mavs Clippers? And is it really like as dire as it seems the rest advantage that the Thunder will have in the second round in terms of like, are they so likely to advance to the conference finals?
If Kawhi doesn't come back, I think the Clippers get out, which is a weird sequence, but I absolutely think that that's the case here. It's not just because they're 2-0. The Clippers ran 28 pick and rolls in game 1. They ran 34 combined in games 2 and 3 when Kawhi came back. And then they shot back up to 29 in game 4. It's this simple. You put the Mavericks in rotation, that defense falls apart. You let them dictate terms in isolation, they're much better. Luka's going to shoot better. I think the series is going 7. And that's a big part of this. I think Thunder are very, very, very live to make the conference finals and maybe even slip past whoever comes out of Wolves Nuggets, because I think that one's going 7-2. Teams that come off a 7-game series have historically done terribly. Like their outcomes in the subsequent round are awful. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it is sub 45%. They do not win those series very often. Now, some of that's because you're not as good. So you went 7 games. And so those are coin flips. And sometimes the worst team advances. So that's all part of this context. But I think OKC really is in position. Like OKC's proven, they're not just like a regular season team. Like they're still doing the stuff they did in the regular season. They're still shooting the lights out. They're still running the ball. Shea's still amazing. They got past that Pelicans game after that game 1 where it got shaky. They settled down and they look much more comfortable with playoff basketball. It's the Pelicans without Zion. I get it. It's not the Clippers. It's not the Mavericks. I like the way they match up with both of those things. I legitimately think the Thunder are live to make the finals. I don't know that they're going to be able to pull that off, especially if it's Denver. But, man, I think they're going to push very hard in the conference finals. I'm going to like them in the next round, I've decided.
If LeBron leaves the Lakers, what's your best guess as to where he plays next year?
Cleveland.
So, like, set a betting market. Are the Lakers the favorite? And if so, how much? And then what would Cleveland be as the second choice?
I mean, all the info is that like he really wants to stay in LA because like all of his business stuff is there. That's why he went there in the first place. He might want to go and make Space Jam and have all these like private enterprise kind of things and do the shop and do all of his like other corporate stuff, whatever he's doing. This was like Durant going to the Bay Area too. So like I mean, it's like tough to be like, well, he'll leave LA. Figure like the other thing, like the reason why Cleveland makes a ton of sense is like Mitchell's way gone. They might blow it up. I mean, they lose tonight. Whew. I saw somebody somebody called Darius Garland like a poor man's Mo Williams, and then somebody shared the stats comparing Garland and Williams is way better. And everybody was like,
"What an indictment!"
Oh yeah, that's right. Like, oh man, it shouldn't be insulting, but it kind of is. So if Cleveland kind of blows this up and Mitchell's like gone, then here's like a draw for tickets while we figure out what the hell we're going to do for the next couple of years. That makes a lot of sense too. Here's Bronny and LeBron like for a year or two while we figure out what we want to do and still draw a bunch of people. The Lakers have to still be the favorite. They have to be. And the testing free agency thing probably is just like, hey, let's get Darvin Ham, out and let's do something else. And then
Frank
maybe
Vogel?
I'll consider re-signing for you. I don't, LeBron has just gone through, so he's ripped through coaches. And this is true with like all-star players, I feel like, in this generation, which isn't like a commentary that like that's bad or good. It's just what's happened, where every time some season goes wrong, like the same story comes. This is the Phoenix joke that you made before. Like, oh, like he was unhappy with Frank Vogel, who won a title, who now we're linking with LeBron and the Lakers, like that guy. Like these guys are so important. Yeah, somebody else. LeBron just does it because it's like he wants to have all the power. Probably David Blatt. I would say he would be like a top 3 choice. Monty Williams would probably be on that list too. See if Detroit's like open to a trade. Send him a draft pick at Monty Williams for $90 million. Yeah.